Most people believe that the first $100,000 is only 10% of the way to $1 million. After all, mathematically, 100,000 is 1/10 of 1 million. But when it comes to the real world of wealth building, that logic is a trap. Mathematically and psychologically, hitting $100,000 means you are actually closer to 1/3 of the way to 1 million. Why does money grow so much faster after that first six-figure milestone? Why do most people quit right before things start accelerating? Today, we are breaking down the surprising math behind wealth acceleration and why that first $100,000 is the hardest milestone you will ever cross. We'll look at the compounding effect most people underestimate and map out the exact path from $100,000 to $1 million. If you're currently below the $100,000 mark, this is going to change how you look at every dollar you save. And if you've already passed it, you're about to realize why the next $900,000 is going to arrive much faster than you think. The biggest reason people give up on their financial goals is a phenomenon called linear thinking. We are wired to think that progress happens in a straight line. We assume that if it took us 5 years to save $100,000, it will take us another 45 years to reach 1 million. You think of wealth like a staircase where every step is the same height and requires the same amount of effort. $0 to $100,000, then $100,000 to $200,000, then $200,000 to $300,000. But wealth doesn't grow like a staircase, it grows like a snowball. This is the core principle of compound interest. In the beginning, the growth is incredibly flat. You are pushing that snowball uphill, and it feels like you're getting nowhere. But as that snowball gets larger, gravity and momentum take over. Compounding eventually bends the growth curve upward until it becomes almost vertical. The journey to $1 million isn't divided equally by the amount of money in your account. It is divided by time and momentum. Once you understand what happens to the math after you cross $100,000, you'll realize why the world's most successful investors obsess over that specific number. There is a famous quote by Charlie Munger, the late legendary investor, where he said, "The first $100,000 is a B***, but you've got to do it." He wasn't just being colorful, he was highlighting a mathematical reality. The first $100,000 is the hardest because you are doing 99% of the heavy lifting yourself. Early on, your investment returns are practically invisible. If you have a $5,000 portfolio and you manage to get a fantastic 10% annual return, you've only made $500. That $500 isn't going to change your life or pay your rent. At this stage, your savings rate is the only thing that matters. To get to $100,000, you are relying almost entirely on your ability to work, earn, and discipline yourself to save. You're also likely at an earlier stage in your career where your income is at its lowest. On top of that, this is the phase where financial mistakes are most frequent. You're learning how to handle debt, avoiding lifestyle creep, and figuring out how the market works. The first $100,000 requires maximum effort for what feels like minimum visible results. It is pure grit. But something powerful happens the moment you cross that six-figure line. Once you hit $100,000, you reach the compounding tipping point. This is where the momentum shifts from you pushing the money to the money helping push itself. Let's look at the math of how returns start to matter. At a $100,000 balance, an 8% annual return earns you $8,000 a year. That's a significant amount of money that you didn't have to work for. By the time you reach $300,000, that same 8% return is generating $24,000 a year. When you hit $500,000, your portfolio is earning $40,000 a year, which is more than many people's starting salaries. And at the $1 million mark, that 8% return is bringing in $80,000 every single year without you lifting a finger. This is the wealth acceleration phase. Early on, your contributions represent 100% of your growth, but as your balance climbs, the interest on the interest begins to outpace your own deposits. Eventually, your investments will grow faster in a single year than you could possibly save from your paycheck. This is why $100,000 is the gateway to real freedom. To understand why $100,000 is 1/3 of the way to 1 million, we have to look at the timeline. Let's take a hypothetical investor who saves $1,000 every month and invests it in a diversified portfolio with an 8% average annual return. To go from $0 to the first $100,000, it will take this investor roughly 7 years of consistent saving and waiting. Now, here is where it gets interesting. To go from $100,000 to $500,000, a gain of $400,000, it takes about 10 more years. But to go from $500,000 to that final $1 million, another $500,000 gain, it only takes about 7 more years. Think about that. The first $100,000 takes the same amount of time as the final $500,000. Even though the dollar amount of the first step is much smaller, the time investment is nearly identical to the massive final leap. This is the wealth snowball effect in action. The first $100,000 is the foundation that allows the rest of the building to be constructed at triple the speed. The insight here is clear. Early money works the longest and therefore does the most work for you. But the real secret isn't just hitting $100,000. It's hitting it as early as humanly possible. Time is the most powerful leverage you have in wealth building, and it's a resource that diminishes every day. Let's compare two people. Person A invests $10,000 at age 22 and never adds another penny. Person B waits 10 years and invests $10,000 at age 32. By the time they both reach retirement, Person A will have hundreds of thousands of dollars more than Person B, simply because those first dollars had an extra decade to double and redouble. The earlier your $100,000 happens, the more explosive the later growth becomes because money has a lifespan in the market. Every year you delay reaching that first milestone is a year of high velocity growth you lose at the end of your life. It's not about how much you end with, it's about how much time you gave your money to behave like a machine. When you understand that time is the fuel for compound interest, your priority shifts. You stop looking for the next big stock and start looking for ways to reach that six-figure floor as fast as possible. How do you get $100,000 faster? Being forceful is necessary. Small 5% or 10% savings rates won't start the acceleration phase rapidly. You should save 20%, 30%, or 50% if possible. The difference between saving 10% and 30% isn't simply 3 times the money, it's decades of retirement. Second, resist lifestyle inflation at all costs at this time. When you get a raise, invest it instead of buying a new car. Upgrade your talents or start a side business to increase your income, then invest every penny. Consistency always beats brilliance. Being a consistent investor who stays in the market and doesn't panic sell during downturns is enough. Reaching the math overrun point is the goal. After $100,000, you enter the wealth explosion zone, usually $300,000 to $500,000. This is when statistics become strange. A normal market good year of 10% increases your net worth by $50,000 when your portfolio reaches $500,000. For many, that's their annual take-home salary from hard work. This is when people realize their money works harder than they do. This eases the psychological load of saving. You feel like you're controlling a fast-moving engine instead of dedicating your life for a distant aim. Here, you go from saving for the future to sustaining a legacy. However, danger exists. After earning $100,000, people's biggest error is slowing down or complicating. They see their balance and think, I've made it, I can finally afford that luxury SUV, or I'm a pro, I should start trading high-risk options. The snowball dies this way. Increasing lifestyle spending or taking risks too early can reset your chronology by years. Easy rule. Protect the snowball. After compounding begins, interrupting is the most costly mistake. If you withdraw or stop contributing at $200,000, you lose hundreds of thousands of dollars over the next decade. Millionaire status is not a marathon of equal miles. This front-loaded battle gets easier with each passing year. Most fail because they think $1 million requires 10 $100,000 steps. Actually, step 1 is the mountain, and steps 2 through 10 are the downhill coast. Before it's quick, wealth development is excruciatingly slow. Now you must focus solely on that first $100,000. Build automatic investing mechanisms, cut costs, and let time work. Math favors you if you stay in the game long enough to bend the curve. Comment below your current investment milestone. $10,000, $50,000, or $100,000, and let's explore how long it might take you to attain your $1 million objective. Your future self depends on your labor now.